welcome to this month's CCI video update. It's always our honor to highlight the great work of schools and their supportive community partners, but today we have the pleasure of talking to both at the same time. Our guests today are Doug Berry, a partner and vice president with Diehl Consulting Group, and Kim McWilliams, chief officer of family, school, and community partnerships with the Evansville-Vanderburgh School Corporation. Welcome, Doug and Kim. Thank you for sharing some time with us today.
Thank you, Amy. Glad to be here.
Doug, can we begin with you, please? Can you tell us a little bit about your organization and the role you played in Lilly Endowment's comprehensive counseling initiative?
Absolutely. So our group, Diehl Consulting Group, is an Indiana-based research and evaluation firm with offices in Indianapolis and Evansville. I'm here in Evansville with Kim with the EVSC. We specialize in community needs assessment, organizational assessment, strategic planning, and most notably, I think, program evaluation. And we've been really fortunate to have a working relationship with the EVSC for, I guess, a couple of decades now. And we're thrilled to serve in that role as the evaluation partner for the Comprehensive Counseling Initiative.
A couple of decades. That's a nice long partnership.
Nice long partnership, indeed.
Well, you know, the Lilly Endowment's ultimate aim for this particular initiative was to improve emotional health, academic success, and college and career preparation for students across Indiana. How does your organization's goals and work align with that focus?
Yeah, we were really fortunate to be able to partner with the EVSC really throughout the whole journey. So from identifying what were those gaps identified as kind of that difference between the status quo 5 years ago and the desired ASCA model. So we were part of that needs assessment. We were able to link arms with the corporation through the process of aligning strategies with the desired outcomes that either directly measure some of the Lilly Endowment's aims that you just listed, or serve as leading indicators or proxy measures, all the way through the data analysis. And my favorite part of the process, which is helping the school corporation to tell their story of what were the successes and what were the lessons learned.
Well, Kim, why don't you jump in there and tell us a little bit about the stories that were shared with Diehl Consulting? What was I tell you during your time there?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Thinking about what a school counselor does is to build trust, and you build trust through ongoing, consistent relationships. The 2 decades worth of trust building that we've done with Diehl Consulting Group has done that. So when they are coming out, meeting with our counselors, asking them to complete a survey, our school counselors and our comprehensive counseling team know that they can trust the Diehl Consulting Group, that's going to be done with fidelity, and they're really going to help them along the way. And it's done just that. They are not just gathering the data and regurgitating it back out in a different format. They really are with us. And Doug mentioned, linking arms. We have gone arm in arm with one another and presented to our school counselors about what the journey is going to look like along the way, and then how we can sustain it, long past any grant funding or anything like that. So the relationship is ongoing, and they certainly are thought partners along the way. They get it. They get how we think after working with us for so many years.
That's awesome. We can all use good thought partners, can't we?
Sure enough.
Definitely.
So, Doug, it sounds like you worked really closely with Evansville in a lot of different ways. If we had other schools that were interested in doing something like this, what advice or words of wisdom do you have for schools or school corporations on how they can effectively collaborate with organizations such as yours?
I find that early in a relationship, there's some unlearning or some misperceptions that need to be corrected when it comes to evaluation. A lot of times evaluation is associated with compliance. It's associated with judgment and finality, at least in terms of summative evaluation. And some of that is fair enough, but we really like to emphasize the value of evaluation for learning, for improvement, for telling your story, like I said. So my recommendation to organizations that are maybe newer to evaluation is to don't think of it as something you have to do for compliance, something you have to do to report to the Lilly Endowment or whoever else the stakeholders might be. Think of it as an opportunity to use your data. The EVSC was such a perfect example of that, whether it was looking at the results from a professional development session to understand what was mastered and what might need to be hit again during the next session. Whether it was looking at the percentage of schools in the corporation who are implementing this or that, ask a best practice, and understanding what the focus of the next PLC might need to be. Whether it was, like Kim said, sharing the story back to the internal team there, and even with the field as a whole at conferences and things like that. There was just so much great, powerful, I think, use of data by the corporation. Just textbook case of how I would encourage organizations to treat evaluation.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I think, as Kim mentioned, that the trust factor had to be pretty important there. So how did you build trust with the school counselors and the corporation that you were working with in this process?
Yeah, for us, it's learning, and it's learning together. So we said early on, our focus was on both process and outcome evaluation. And we really appreciate that the Lilly Endowment emphasized that so much. But so we weren't just looking at what percentage of seniors are completing the FAFSA, have office referrals decreased without any kind of context. We focus first on the process of what kind of professional development is being offered. What's the content and frequency of these PLC meetings, and so on and so forth. And then when we talk to the counselors about outcomes, like the student outcomes we said, but also what percentage are implementing ASCA best practices? Is there shared understanding about what the role should be of the school counselor, the school psychologist, the school social worker? This initiative as a whole was a bit of a shift to the status quo intentionally. So already our school counseling staff was being asked to change things a little bit. And then you layer on evaluation, and we try to minimize the burden as much as we can, but there were surveys and rubrics and time audits at different points throughout the year. And there's just no question that the work that we were doing was adding to counselors' plates, at least in the short term. The reason I bring that up is because two of the metrics that we tracked throughout this initiative related to counselor self-care and health was to what extent they're feeling burnout and to what extent they're feeling overwhelmed by the demands of their job. In both of those cases, we saw improvement from baseline in spite of these added demands being placed on them. So that was really helpful for me to unpack, because to me, it just speaks to buy-in. Mm-hmm. It speaks to, well, number one, when the leadership is in place, as it was in the EVSC, to say, hey, this is our vision for our school counseling program. This is why it's important. Number two, the supports were in place. So we've talked about PLCs and counselor coaches and so forth. And then number three, and maybe most importantly, when counselors can really see the value for themselves, for their school, I think that it makes some of those added demands a little easier to digest. So we tracked throughout the evaluation of this initiative, we tracked the percentage of schools that were implementing selected ASCA best practices. We did not explicitly set as an outcome for this initiative that schools would become RAMP certified, but a handful of them did. Yes. EVSC has 5 RAMP schools, 2 of which are RAMP schools of distinction, and a handful more pursuing carrying the torch. And it's that same kind of idea that you would think that this is more being dumped on them, adding to their plate. But because of the way it was all structured, because of the unified vision from the top down, and the just kind of undeniable, I think, benefit for each school counselor in the school, there was incredible buy-in. So I still am going to hesitate to say that I was surprised by that, because that makes me, but I was definitely encouraged by it.
That's wonderful. Very well said. Kim, do you think you saw an improvement in counselors' self-care and self-efficacy throughout this process?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like Doug, he said it great the way he said that. But we knew that we were going to be putting some things on our counselors, right? but we knew that it was going to really, the best practices were going to make them maybe not easier, but more fluid in the end. And like anything else, right? Put the hard work in the beginning, and then everything else kind of falls into place as it does. And I want to thank Lilly, helping us, kind of get this started, inspire success, the work that they're doing and continuing this, and talk about sustainability. Here's the sustainability right here, where we're able to kind of look back, but also look forward. And like Doug said, that was never our intent. And I always said that at every one of our meetings with our counselors. By no means do I expect anyone here to rant, but why wouldn't you? You're doing the best practices. And we have some great data to show what you've done and what you've done and what you continue to do. So like Doug said, now 5 of them have, and many of them are thinking forward on carrying the torch within Indiana as well. So proud of all the work our school counselors have done throughout our district, but also certainly with the collaborative effort with Diehl Consulting Firm and Doug in his efforts as well.
Well, I will tell you, you have a lot to be proud of. It's a model program, and we've enjoyed being able to see it all the way through. So thank you so much again for being here. And we really appreciate you spending some time with us. Doug Berry of Diehl Consulting, Kim McWilliams of the Evansville-Vanderburgh School Corporation. And thank you to our viewers for watching this month's CCI video update.